Abusia for any Beccan says Afenyo Markin Kwanko Parliament Grandpa Kwanko Parliament na NKA Mama. Because in your ma course from beginning to end, yen guasi Kesi Mama. Just say, Intiminia the Papa Marco Cravacas. Oh, we inquire this in favor of Afenyo Markin and Neddy MPs na H00t no, H00 no, Mokeno. Oh, I just say, and yes, I'm going to saying on one written report official document be and not the majority leader a pulley. I just say, near my woman, no, any market to be your quinity. Afenyo Markin mum, and then the only ape or posy against the suspended chief justice or funny MPs, trained people for dinner supporters dinner no more than street a demonstration say, Senator Mama, San Fanny Mammy chief justice and the Afenyo Markin or posy 80 and you couldn't quit in Cinnamon Church.
Mentioned 6 nominees, but there are actually 7 nominees. And that error is also repeated in page 2, line 3. So just those basic corrections. So Speaker, mine is not to bore the House with a very lengthy Mine is not to bore the House with a very lengthy statement about matters that don't border on what is before us. So, Speaker, what is before us is the approval of 7 nominees to the Supreme Court. As a House, our basic responsibility is to find out whether the President acted in accordance with the Constitution or not. That's the first fundamental responsibility of the House. So, Speaker, Mr. Speaker, at no point has it been canvassed that the President has acted unconstitutionally. So the Constitution has been complied with. So, Speaker, the second set of questions that we ask ourselves will be the competence, the capacity, and the ability of the nominees. And Mr. Speaker, I have listened to the minority leader and members of the minority side who spoke before me, and they all clearly confirm that the nominees are very, very competent. Indeed, let me repeat what the report, which they agree with, says, that upon careful deliberation, the committee notes that all the nominees demonstrated outstanding competence, deep knowledge of the law, and a firm grasp of judicial ethics. They address questions posed by the committee with professionalism, clarity, and intellectual rigor, reflecting their capacity to uphold the independence, integrity, and dignity of the highest court of the land. Mr. Speaker, this is the testimony of the committee made up of both the majority and the minority members. This part of the report is not disputed. And they add that the committee is satisfied that the nominees possess the requisite qualifications, judicial temperament, and commitment to constitutional values expected of justice of the Supreme Court. So again, the questions that the minority leader raised about whether they can uphold the independence of the Constitution, whether they can uphold the balance that is expected of the Constitution between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, whether they can do that, that is equally answered by this paragraph, which says that the committee is satisfied that is the committee made up of the NDC and MPP members, is satisfied that the nominees possess the requisite qualifications, judicial temperament, and commitment to constitutional values expected of justice of the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, on the basis of this, I don't think we should belabor the point about whether or not we should approve these nominees. They are obviously qualified, capable, competent, and will do the job. And I want to assure the minority leader that all the questions that he asked us have been answered in the report. Mr. Speaker, except to add a few things, my colleague, Honorable Agalga, has pointed out to this House that within the 8 years period, the NPP, led by President Nana Akufo-Addo, appointed 15 Supreme Court justices. 15. Appointed 48 Courts of Appeal justices. Appointed 130 High Court justices. Mr. Speaker, after making all these appointments, in the dying days of his tenure as president, he anticipated that some justices will be retiring. And in anticipation that they will be retiring, he then brought nominations to this House in order that when they retire, he will still have the numbers that he wants to have on the bench. And as a minority, we took a position that we didn't know who will become the next president after Akufo-Addo. But we believe that Akufo-Addo had enough opportunities to fill the Supreme Court. And therefore, since it was not the case that we didn't have the minimum number to constitute a bench, he should leave the situation like that until the next president assumes office and also has an opportunity to at least appoint the two nominees that he wanted to appoint. Mr. Speaker, this really was fundamentally the basis of the objection of the minority at that time. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, the minority joined the majority at that time, and we vetted the two nominees. We voted the same way they voted today. They voted against, or they are voting against the nominees. We also voted against the nominees, and they voted for the nominees. A report was written. The report was brought to this House. The only reason why the nominations didn't go through was that he, as majority leader, failed to have the report taken in this House. Mr. Speaker, I am holding a copy of the report. Mr. Speaker, 38th report of the Appointments Committee on His Excellency the President's nominations for appointment as Justice of the Supreme Court, September 2024. Mr. Speaker, the report was signed by no less a person than the person who sits today as the Deputy Minority Leader, Honorable Patricia Apiaje, who was then the Vice Chairperson of the Appointments Committee. She was the Vice Chairperson of the Appointments Committee, and she signed the report. And the report recommended that the matter should be decided by this House. And he was the majority leader. And he failed to bring the report for us to take it in this House to determine the fate of the two justices. Mr. Speaker, I am surprised and baffled that a person who had such an excellent opportunity to have the two justices, two nominees to the Supreme Court taken in this House, and who failed and refused to bring the report for us to take. Today, he sits and accuses the NDC for rejecting 2 nominees. We did not reject them. We voted against them at committee level, and you refused to bring the report. He failed. You failed. I'm surprised. I thought you would have glossed over that part of the history of this house, because that history is against you. Mr. Speaker, I was also of the mind that perhaps we should have fewer numbers in the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, I'm being asked today what has changed. And I was influenced by the fact that most of my constitutional jurisprudence was taught me in the United States. So I am quite attached to the character of the U.S. Supreme Court, where we have just 9 judges. Mr. Speaker, this was my considered view. And indeed, when the Appointments Committee sat, I vehemently canvassed that view. And the Honorable Apiaje was there. I vehemently canvassed that view. Mr. Speaker, until I came across a letter written by the current Chief Justice, who explained thoroughly and satisfactorily the need for us to reconsider our view on the matter. Mr. Speaker, Justice Torkorno, the Chief Justice, the suspended Chief Justice, wrote a letter on the 14th of February 2024, signed the letter in her capacity as Justice Sh0cĉinglý Torkorno, Chief Justice at that time. Mr. Speaker, it is an 11-page letter to the President, but I will confine myself to the last paragraph and read just that. Mr. Speaker, it says that it is for the above reason that the Chief Justice requests His Excellency the President to consider the appointment of an additional 5 judges to the Supreme Court to ensure the speedy resolution of cases and speedy delivery of final decisions for the nation. This should bring the current number of the Supreme Court to 20 judges. 20 judges, including the Chief Justice. This number will enable the setting of 3 undisturbed panels of 5, 2 panels of 7 or 9 judges to work on any set of cases on a given day, depending on the jurisdiction of the court being exercised in any given week, thereby reducing the specter of constantly reconstituting panels during a day sitting and its effect on pre- and post-hearing conferences. In that letter, the Chief Justice had made a very strong and compelling case why the Supreme Court should have not less than 20 judges. 20 judges. Mr. Speaker, after reading the letter, I became convinced that the court needs to have at least 20 judges. Mr. Speaker, so I'm surprised that the minority leader, who since a petition was lodged against the suspended Chief Justice, has been a key advocate for the suspended Chief Justice, has extolled her virtues, has indicated that she's the best thing that ever happened to the jurisprudence of this country. I'm surprised that one major recommendation that she makes, that the court should be constituted by 20, we should have 20 judges, that today he's opposing her recommendation. I'm surprised. I'm surprised. that you will go to such high heavens to extol her, and yet one key recommendation, one key legacy that she sought to leave, which is recommending that we should have 20 Supreme Court judges, that you will be against that. I'm surprised. But I can understand. Having failed to process 2, you cannot understand why we on this side will succeed in processing 7 on one day. I can understand. Unfortunately, it has to happen. Today, we will approve 7 nominees to the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, on that note, I urge colleagues to vote adopting the report. I plead with my colleagues opposite not to walk out. They should sit. Let us vote. I can see that in principle you are not against the nominees. You've extolled their virtues here, except that because you didn't succeed in approving the 2, you don't see why we should approve 7. But that is our luck. That is our luck. You have to live with that. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, at the conclusion of the debate, as many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted.
Oh, yes. On the diversity, Afenyo. One of the BL preaches power is an ice block. Na ice block as a door there to him. Say down sim cha nanny, a benani nas and yes, I think said your worker a experience a one casanka saying. In semna ya wakano a experience a one casawenya. Wow, you will be one when you say experience because 8 years in and more power. Now you two more for said munti. Look at the records the majority leader in the appointing. Judges and more power from Supreme Court to the lower court. Kobe 150. Judges and from Supreme Court to the lower court. And from the lower court to the Supreme Court, and can in a woman Kobe 150. And then, Namuri, modern, and then President Akufo-Addo can say, what you should who say, judges and be on no pound, a big grab a pension. How much time person into all power be ashim. You who constitution if be a casa da. What my power in 9 a baby call pensioner. Just ask a lot on a crown woman. The president coming because now 8 years after. Nyama muye now intimi from Sanchez about kumpo papa. Now as I prove our parliament say sound. Yensan for 2 question na enje nkrofo beko pension adding Akufo-Addo adding na we boniti Ghana adding and no kodanche the suspended chief justice this actual letter today president say was no obese the 5 Supreme Court judges ebe kano na Akufo-Addo our power 15 on the 5 become 20 unkwa 80 20 Supreme Court judges adding nanka tames kufo mahama munyina power 2020 Because I be judges do those in the Supreme Court. Cabinet be appointed. And yes, still no more confirm more the minorities like MPP for no MPs and more when anything wrong with it. A banner, Afenyo was a power science block. Oh, she and the NDC for ice block on anything. Omside the free, omside the shift free, defreeze them. And I know see trebugum, and I know trebugum. Because Bonina with you, and one is yes, is against him. One way so, and one is against him. No namamunya mutra brevia. So this suspended Chief Justice, I want to recommend 5 Supreme Court judges. And then and on the rule any cases I want to make my didn't fine. And you people supported it, Musiki and Yamano. And ne when you're quite to be the 7 become one. Enye. Just a yamana moo yintino enye. Moya dear eye. Oh my dream. And you and them. And these are happening on and on Saturday now. So be say I'm 5 from bra. My opposite. And the same person and also na me a demonstrations. Yes, I'm from back. And I'm a president in Libya. On the constitution of Anton Genonia Diamope. Moye BBC and my number goes well guase. Never must stay in opposition for long. But man, I dance somebody say we need be. If you people should, man shall see any real. I'm respecting my hammer. Cause the amount for see drop papa. Man shall see and do be a bad thing. Man shall see supporting be a bad thing, mamma. One for being good and I'm thinking I'm drinking Ghana form as a human beings. Cause the Maya and Lucas Kamukasa for 1 year, Montana Jamuye Dean and Kamonche E. The Casa Benny Intimia no, you know. The Casa beat me a beno, Yentimaya no, you know. Nankamo was there. As one person by her side. She said, the majority leader and say, Kumani Massey. I be as in say who team lead Afenyo. So, subscribe and share on your senior being here for once in your account.